Pumpkinhead 4, you were so close, but yet so far away to actually be a pretty good and a very entertaining franchise. Good going, movie, for ruining it for the rest of the class. Pumpkinhead 4 Blood Feud is about two different families. One is named the McCoys, the other ones are the Hatfields, who actually have decades and decades of frustration with each other. And you got Pumpkinhead in the middle, who needs to actually wipe out one of these two families. Hey everybody, how you doing out there? So I am on the final Pumpkinhead review before we get to the ranking video, hopefully tomorrow or the next day after that. And just like the other ones, it's been a while since I've seen these movies. I've only watched this movie one time and it was very forgettable. Now, is it something that's a little bit better, or do I still think it's a pretty forgettable movie? Well, stay tuned. So going with the likes first, got to start off with Ed Hurley is back once again, played by Lance Henderson, who was in the first one. He was actually the main character in that one. Had sort of a small part in part 3, and now he's actually in this one. And I will say the difference between part 3 and this one is it feels like he has more to actually do, more to actually say in this here. And it's just, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I respect Lance Henderson. I think he's still an underrated actor, and he does such a great job playing this character, and I'm very happy to see him actually come back and do what he actually needs to do. So good job on that there, Lance, to come back at least one last time in the Pumpkinhead movies. You got the witch, of course, who is throughout these 4 movies here. Just like part 1 and part 3, I love the makeup on her. She is still very creepy. She can be scary. I love hanging on to every word she's got to say. Like, she really delivers her lines very, very well. So I got to give her a lot of credit on that. And yes, I sound like a broken record on this here because unfortunately there's not really a whole lot else to actually say about her. Except in this one, I will say maybe once or twice, she actually really made me laugh, and I really did like that. And then the final like is actually Pumpkinhead once again. He's out there, he's still kicking butt, he's still killing people that he needs to go after and all that. Just like I actually mentioned in my poster in Pumpkinhead 3, still a badass also in this one. He is mostly practical effects. Now, I will say this is that there are maybe about 2 or 3 very quick scenes where it feels like that he actually is CGI. So it's like, even though if you saw my review of the third one, I was not a big fan of the CGI. I felt like it took me out of the movie. In this one, I kind of forgive it a little bit in this one because it never took me out of the movie. I was never really actually ticked off. It actually felt like it did kind of improve a little bit on the CGI, which it's supposed to anyway, so I kind of give it a little credit there. And moving on to the dislikes, I'd like to actually answer my question at the beginning of this video. Is this a forgettable movie? Yes. Yes, it actually is. It's one of those things that once I'm done recording this video, editing the video, and once you guys get it out on YouTube, it will actually be pretty forgettable. I'll be like, okay, I kind of sort of remember it's a movie about Pumpkinhead. I know this is the 4th movie of the series, but I really don't remember, other than that, what this movie is actually going to be about. When it comes to the story, it's pretty much Romeo and Juliet with Pumpkinhead going after one of the families here, and I just was not really thrilled. I'm not a big fan of Shakespeare, so anybody out there who's watching this, if you like Shakespeare and you like the Old English and you like those stories, that's fine. But I've never really been a big fan of any of his stories, any of his movies, any of his miniseries. So kind of bringing in a Romeo and Juliet in a horror movie with Pumpkinhead, sure, sounds cool on paper, but unfortunately, I just don't really give a damn on that. And also, when it comes to two families, what the feud is all about here, and it's the whole thing where I believe it was the McCoys, and they do tell you pretty early into the movie here, the McCoys actually are the first family to have a vehicle. So what happens is, what they do is they accidentally hit a 9-year-old boy, which turns out is our main female, who's kind of the Juliet character. Her uncle ends up in a wheelchair when he was 9 years old. Now he's about 70, 80 years old. After all of these decades, the feud still kind of continues instead of thinking, okay, maybe we should actually forgive them and just move on with our lives after all this time. It seemed like that the uncle, to a point, seemed like he would have there, but he just kind of let everything kind of go along with the father to let all his sons do what he's actually doing, or maybe, you know, nephews and all that there, because it's not just all brothers, it's actually cousins there too. But it's like, that's what the whole thing was after all these years. If it was something that maybe happened, and maybe if the boy died, I could kind of see that there too, but at least the uncle was still alive. Yes, he was just in a wheelchair there, and I'm like, I just really don't care about that story either there. When it comes to the script, I am not a big fan of the dialogue. It maybe actually sounded good in your head and even on paper, but what these actors needed to say, even with Ed Hurley and the Witch, at least they try those two there. I'll give them credit on that there. But this has got to be one of the worst scripts ever, especially when it came to the dialogue, but even with the narrative, and I can't completely blame the script on this here, but there were 2 times in this movie that these families get into pretty much almost like bar fights. One is actually at a wedding, which I'm sure they probably were serving alcohol there, and another one was actually at one of the family's houses outside, and they had these fights, and they looked so amateur. I was like, I know that I'm sure you practice these fights before you start actually filming your movie, but I'm just like, oh my god, this is the fights we got. And I'm like, I've seen bad fights in action movies before, but I think this movie takes the cake out of every single movie I have ever seen when it comes to action. If it's in action movies and horror movies and comedies, I'm like, holy shit. I've seen bad ones, but not as bad as these 2 fights here. And also going with that, where I can't completely blame the script, is the director. I don't know if this was the director's first movie or not, but he didn't know how to direct his actors, especially the main ones, honestly, there. I think that I'm glad the camera was actually at least in focus, I'll give it that there. But it just felt like he didn't know what to actually do, because it felt like that he didn't get the best out of these actors here. Because really with the actors, not only is the movie forgettable, but these characters are not that memorable either. Like I said, you got your 2 like Romeo and Juliet. I mean, they don't even feel like that they have any chemistry with each other, and I feel like that the family members of their own families do not have chemistry with each other. It just felt like that the director just let people go do whatever they wanted to do, and this was the shitty movie that we unfortunately actually get. And whenever it comes to the kills and the deaths, except like 1 or 2 of them that were actually kind of cool, I was actually not thrilled with the kills, because most of the kills in here was Pumpkinhead goes up to you, he slashes your chest, and maybe they might here or there not shy away from the gore, where they might actually show someone's like insides coming out of them, which I would say was actually kind of cool there. But if that's what you're mostly going to do, is just slash your characters, other than, like I said, maybe a couple like other ones that were somewhat cool and somewhat unique there. Yeah, like I said, I really was like, they were actually just okay to pretty bad with these kills and the deaths. And the final thing to actually kind of go with the kills and the death is the gore. The thing is, the first hour of this movie, it's like the blood, the gore is sprinkled in, and you probably get the gore like the last 25, 30 minutes of this movie, the big battle at the end here with the families and Pumpkinhead here, because the families decide to kind of team up together, kind of. And I'm just like, okay, so that's where you get all that gore. Now, probably younger me would have definitely enjoyed this movie a lot more, especially that last 30 minutes. But as adult me, and I look at it where you're just going to throw out all the gore that last 25 minutes of the movie, no, unfortunately, I'm not that thrilled with it either, especially that you could have spread out the gore a little bit more in this movie, in my opinion here. So, like I said, overall, I was very disappointed with this movie, very disappointed with this sequel here. Pumpkinhead for Blood Feud, I'm going to go a 1/2 star out of 4. Have you seen this movie? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Give me a comment down below. We shall discuss it. And thank you guys so much for watching my Pumpkinhead franchise review. As I mentioned before, Hopefully tomorrow or the next day I will have the ranking video out there. So thank you guys again, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.